So now we have our speaker coming up, and his name is Allan. He is a pizza buffet and a Chinese food buffet connoisseur. He also likes candy, so if you have any of that, I'm sure he would love to have some after the message. And he also has been on staff with Crew for the past 10 years. So without further ado, welcome up Andy Allan. All right, dear Lord, we just come before you and give you thanks. Thank you for what Andy is about to speak. We pray that his word will be forgotten, that your truths will linger in the hearts of everybody in this room. We love you and we praise you. And it's through us. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Matt. He's great, huh? Going places no crew has gone before. We looked a lot already this time, and I'm looking at this, but I don't have my notes. I think I left them over here. Are there some papers and a notebook? Yeah, can you bring those up to me, please? They got packed in here. I didn't want to go up to the front while everybody was looking around. All right. Hey, in the back. That's cool. Can you hear me all right? Am I being loud enough? What? Okay. My brother always does that. He goes, wow. And he's 29, so. I'm 32. I know I don't look it, but if you look close, I have gray hairs on the side of my head. That's what gives me away. I don't like candy. I absolutely love candy. Like, I have to have candy. And candy corn is what I love the most. You guys love candy corn? You either love it or you hate it. Who hates candy corn? I'll tell you what, if you mix in some Reese's Pieces with that candy corn, it's a whole new experience. That's a man trail mix right there. It's candy corn mixed with Reese's Pieces. You throw some peanuts in there for like health reasons, you know? Get your polyunsaturated fats. You guys might remember me from being the awkward dude who was doing surveys the first couple days of class. Did anybody take those surveys, 1 or 2 question spiritual survey? Woo, man, that was hard to do for me. I was standing out there. And it's scary to just walk up to somewhere, stand there and say, hey, would you do a survey? We have this crew card. Did you guys get the crew card? I gave you a free slice of pizza at Amores. And when I started out, I had the lines down, I thought. I was like, okay, it went something like, hey, free slice of pizza at Amores for a 1 to 2 question survey? That was good. It never quite went like that. I got out there in the morning of the first day, and if you remember, it was like a muggy 93 degrees, and I had on these exact same pants. Because every day in September, I convince myself that it's going to be fall. It's not, I just don't even care. And so I get out there and I'm alone, and I have the surveys in hand, and I'm already starting to sweat, and I start stammering at people as they're walking by. I think I'm a crazy person. Like, survey and pizza? Would you like to take a pizza and then a survey? No, I mean, walk by and just give me the eye, and one eye, and the head tilt. And then I looked behind me, and I was outside of Lawrence, and there's that big glass thing, and there were a bunch of people just standing and looking at me like I was on the inside of a zoo. It was horrible. And so now I'm sweating profusely, and it's like, survey, shaking it off. It's so much easier to do when you have a friend to laugh at, but that day I was alone, and it was bad. So I went to the bathroom, and I got some toilet paper, so there's no paper towels, and I like wiped the sweat off my nose. And sometimes I ramble, and I tell you things I shouldn't say, so we just have to get used to that throughout our time. But when people would ask me, why are you doing this survey? I had a quick response. I was like, oh, we're with Crew. We're a Christian organization on campus. And as I did that, more and more, I just thought, maybe that's not the best thing to say. Because people have so many different ideas of what it means to be a Christian. Some people might walk past and hear a Christian organization, and they're like, ew, whatever. Christians suck. You know? And some people might be like, all right, Christians, that's okay. Or Christians, that's irrelevant. Around this room, we have tons of different definitions of what it means to be a Christian. What we think of when we hear the term Christianity. At best, I think most people view Christianity as altruism. When it's at its best, it's people being nice, people being a good Christian neighbor. And it's pretty cool. I'm like, oh, thanks for helping the poor or doing something nice for someone else. That's the good view of Christianity. Other people have a bad view of Christianity. They think it's negative. They think it's blindly judgmental. Maybe you've experienced this blind judgmentalism from Christians, people who call themselves Christians. It's like Angela from The Office, okay? We hate her, gosh. And she's so, like, advocating Christianity and yet being a total hypocrite, sleeping with Dwight of all people. It just makes no sense, and you loathe Angela. And I think people view Christianity like that. Because everyone has a story, everybody has an experience. And so tonight, I want to explain to you what we mean by Christianity here at Crew. If someone goes to Crew and they say, I'm a Christian, this is what we mean. And so I want to put out there that I think it's different than simply altruism. And it's totally different than judgmentalism. So the Christianity you're going to find at Crew is very different. And I want to tell it to you in the form of a story, because like I said, everyone has a story. And when we get all fact-based at people, I think it just doesn't work. I'm getting married in February, or April. Yeah, February, because I don't want to wait until April. We haven't nailed that down yet, but my fiancée, Sarah, who says hi, by the way. She's really good, Sarah. Yeah, I'll tell her 2 people say hi back. She doesn't know how many people are here, so maybe there it is too. Sarah doesn't have a credit card. And I was telling her, you should get a credit card. It's like getting free money. Okay, they'll give you points, you get miles, and they'll get cash back. And she was saying, I don't think so. And I started to give her all these facts. I'm like, why not? You can just do this, and this, and this, and this. And eventually she was like, Andy, my family had a bunch of credit cards, and they kind of ruined their lives by getting in all this debt with their credit cards. And so I'm really afraid of getting them, because I don't want to see my life ruined like my family was. And I was like, that makes total sense. Of course you'd be scared to get a credit card if your family used them to ruin their lives. And I realized that it's so fact-based, and going at this from this angle, and forgetting that her experience shapes what she believes in a large way. And so I'm not here to argue facts with you. I just want to share a story and our point of view about what Christianity is to Crew. For a story that Jesus told himself. It's in the Bible. It's interesting. It's a mix of nonfiction and fiction. This guy named Luke, who lived a couple thousand years ago, decided to make a biography of Jesus' life. He did it to explain Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, and then what happened afterwards to his friend named Theophilus. You can read this in the biblical book of Luke, chapter 1. And so I don't know if he was a history major or whatever, but he became a historian. And he did a great job of writing what he calls an orderly account of Jesus' life. And in there, he records a fictional story that Jesus tells to some people. And so it's a non-fiction story, unfiction story, and it's in Luke chapter 15. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and open that up. We're going to have it up here. I don't know if you guys can see it over here, but I don't know. Can you get that angle? Is that all right? Yeah, enough. I'm going to walk through this story. But I want to set the scene for you. And the scene is this. Jesus goes to a party. Jesus rolls up to a party. And the dude is popular at the time. Jesus Christ was like this incredibly popular guy because he was healing people of disease, he was raising people from the dead, and he was teaching things that nobody ever heard before. And so people were crowding around and following him, just feeling like, I want to see what Jesus is up to. And so he goes to this guy's house, and it becomes this like kicking party. Okay? But the party's kind of like a middle school dance. Because there's, like, the middle school dance, there's like boys stuck to one wall and girls stuck to the other wall. And there's like no interaction. You know what I mean? If there is, somebody like walks over, it's like everybody scrutinizes them, it's really embarrassing. And even when you dance in middle school, it's kind of like far away, It's like, I don't want to be part of this. Maybe it's different middle school experience for you guys. You're like, no. Anybody? Is that like middle school for you guys? Okay. I never know. Maybe it's elementary school now, Things are getting younger. And so, this party is divided that Jesus is at. On one side, you have the rebel crowd. It's the rebels. They know they're bad and they're loving it, okay? They're like smoking weed in the bathroom stall, or cigarettes, whatever. And on the other side, you have these holy, self-righteous people. Okay, on one side is the rebellious people, and on the other side are the self-righteous people. I think they kind of look across the aisle at each other at this party. They look across the table and it's like, ew. And the self-righteous people are saying, look at those, those bad people. Gosh, we are so much better than them. The rebellious are like, man, look at these people. They just don't know how to have a good time. And so Jesus wants to talk to both of them. And so he tells a story that's going to touch both of their lives. And so he starts, in Luke 15, and he starts with the story by saying this. And Jesus said, there was a man who had 2 sons. Simple story. God has 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, give me the share of property that is coming to me. Give me the share of property that is coming to me. And all of a sudden, everybody in the party goes, whoa, what? Shut up, no, he didn't. With this, they were doing this back in the day. It's in my footnotes of the Bible. They were snapping, and there was all this crazy stuff like. But that younger son said to his father, it's crazy, ridiculously bad. It's like unfriending your parents, but to like the 100th degree. Okay, it's so much worse than that. Because at that time, it's kind of like today, when a person died, if they were a father, the sons would divide their inheritance. Okay, but you waited until they died. Okay? This son comes up to his dad and says, you know what, Dad? I wish you were dead so I could have your money. In fact, let's just pretend that you're dead. You give me the money that's coming to me, and I will peace out, because you suck. That's what he's telling his dad. He's saying, I don't want to be your son anymore. Let's just cut the relationship now. You give me the money that I deserve for being your son, and I'm going to get out of here. That is crazy, right? This son is selfish. He's entitled. He's a jerk. You know, I don't know what language I could use here. I might use a little stronger language if we were just hanging out one-on-one. But he's a jerk and not a nice person. You get that idea? He's not nice. He doesn't treat his dad very well. But the next little part of the verse says, and he, the father, divided his property between them. Okay? Weird. The father doesn't react at all. We really don't know anything about the father. I mean, maybe he's a horrible father. Maybe that's why this younger son is upset. We don't know anything. We just know that the father said, okay, let's do it. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. Yeah, no kidding. He wanted to get away from his dad, right? He hated his dad, obviously. He's like, I'm piecing out of here. And not only did he leave his dad, he left his whole family and like his whole people. And that time he went to a far away country. So he's like, forget it, I gotta get out of here. I gotta like go make a new life somewhere. I need wide open spaces, is what he would say if he was a Dixie chick. Is that reference still okay? I don't know. Man, whatever happened to this Dixie chick? This is definitely the time to be pondering what happened to the Dixie chick. He left. This younger son, he takes his dad's money and rejects him. He goes off and lives a crazy life. It says there in this far country, he squandered his property in reckless living. Now, when I picture that, I picture him rolling up to a bar or whatever they had at a bar 2,000 years ago and just dropping like hundreds on the table and making it rain and being like, I got this. What you mean? I got this. I got it. You drinks on me, everybody. Like, it's hard to be recklessly living alone. You know, if I rolled up to McDonald's and wanted to live recklessly, I could eat, what, 4 quarter-pounders, 5, maybe, and some of the fries. But now, if I bring all y'all with me and I'm like, get whatever you want, then we're spending like $1,000 at McDonald's. And it was the most mediocre gift I could ever give you. And so, he squanders his money, and basically he's partying with people. Okay, by the way, this is a good time to say this. Does anyone know what prodigal means? This story's called the Prodigal Son. What does prodigal mean, scholarly nerds? You know what? I asked it and then I can't hear very well. Somebody over there?
Wasteful, right?
Yeah, that's right, wasteful. Like spending your money lavishly and wastefully, extravagantly, Kanye style. Just throw it out there. Or maybe Wesley Snipes, he's kind of like that. He just spends it recklessly. Prodigal means to recklessly and lavishly spend your money. So he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, this is verse 14, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. It's kind of like you bought a house at the height of the housing market, and then all of a sudden the housing market plummeted, and all of a sudden he's got nothing, and his mortgage is upside down, and I don't know what that means, but it's bad. And so he is in trouble. He's in need. He has nothing. He's got no money left. He's squandered it all. So it says he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. Which sucks. And it's horrible because this guy is a Jew. And to anyone in this party that Jesus is talking to, remember he's at this party talking to these people, pigs were disgusting. They were unclean. They couldn't eat them. They couldn't touch them. So that's like the worst thing a Jewish person could do. So like, ugh, the pigs, he's hanging out with them, it's bad. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate. That's gross. Have you ever opened cat food and be like, man, I wish I could just eat this. Ugh, it's the grossest stuff. I gag every time I open that thing up. And it says, and look at this, it says in verse 16, no one gave him anything. All that reckless living and squandering and partying with people, and all of a sudden he's in need. He's in like a pig trough, dying pods, and I imagine people walking by him. People that he knew, that he partied with, and they just ignore him. They will not help him. Could you imagine the shame of that? Of just sitting in a pigsty, hoping that someone would give you a $5 bill. And the people you partied with, that you gave money to, that you bought drinks for, all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm just going to ignore you. It's shameful. But something happens. It says in verse 17, he came to himself. He came to his senses, literally. And he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? This is the first thing we really learn about the father, right? Is he's a generous dude. His servants have more than enough bread to eat. So he's like, his father is piling stuff on the servants. And so he says, you know what? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. It's an interesting thing. We'll come back to that. I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. Something happened in the younger son's heart. He realized, oh my gosh, what I did was messed up. I treated my father the way he did deserve. And look where my life has got me. I just royally screwed up. We have a word for that. We call that conviction. It's when you feel that guilt in your heart, like something bad is going on. And you can also see that shame when he thinks, this is what he thinks he's going to say to his dad, I'm no longer worthy to become your son, or to be called your son. Gosh, could you imagine having to go to your father or your mom and say that to them? I'm just not worthy to be called your son anymore. Just filled with shame. It's quite a speech, you know? It has the feel of like the crowning moment in a drama where this guy comes up and he gives this heartfelt speech. And it says he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And for the second time, everyone in the party, both sides, were like, whoa, shut up, the snaps are going off, that is crazy. Why would he ever do that? Because we don't know this now because people jog all the time, but back in the day, if you were a man, you did not run. You didn't run for nothing. It didn't even matter what was going on. You did not run. It was disgraceful to run. And his dad just runs at him. He just throws disgrace out the window. And I think at Jesus' parties, people are just like, oh my gosh, this father is different. There's something different about his father. He runs, he embraces and kisses his son before his son's even said up one word. And that is so unlike the father figures they were used to. Anybody that's random? Anybody read Chaim Potok? He's an Orthodox Jewish writer. He's an incredible writer. He wrote like, my name is Asher Lev, I'm Asher Lev. Look it up and love it. Anyway, he talks about Orthodox Jewish life. And the Jewish people he talks about, the father figures are just strict. And they're serious. They command their family. And you do not mess with them. And if you mess, you're in trouble. You get stern face. And that's it. There's no other face. But this father is different. He runs and embraces and kisses. He restores relationship with the son before the son ever says a word. And it's shocking to these people that Jesus is talking to. And the son starts his speech. He says, Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. And dad's like, shh, everybody, come here. He's calling his servants. He's like, come on, do this. Come here. I'm going to figure out where it is here. Yes. Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him. Because for some reason, robes aren't creepy back then, I guess. Somehow in the 2,000 years, robes have become creepy. But the dad is like, bring the best robe, sirs, come on. Bring it, put it on. Put a ring on his hand, put shoes on his feet. So the father just goes crazy, and he brings the son on. He doesn't even care, he doesn't even listen to what the son says. He's just so excited that the son is back. The son's like, Dad, I've sinned against you. And the dad's like, don't worry about it, just hug. That's all, just hug it out. That's all we need. He says to his servants, bring the fattened calf and kill it. let us eat and celebrate. Let's throw a gigantic party. The dad is so happy. It says, for this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they, the son, the father, the servants, got their party on. They began to celebrate. And it must have been awesome. And it is so close to a happy ending. You know, it sounds so great. But then, something crazy happens. Oh, I missed T.O., didn't I? T.O. was going to be in here. I missed him. Sorry, next time, T.O. We'll get to you. The older brother now enters the picture. You can picture T.O. as the older brother if you want. It doesn't really... Either way. The older son, that second son, was in the field. And as he came home after a long day's work and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. I feel sorry for the guy. He worked all day and there's a party going on. And he called on one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has received him back safe and sound. But the older brother was angry and refused to go in. I just imagine him sitting like back facing the party, just like tapping his foot, just like muttering. And the father comes out and he entreats him. He says, son, come on in, come celebrate, man. Black eyed peas, let's go. It's your favorite jam. Let's do this. The father doesn't even care. He's jumping around. He's running all over the place, running man. If I knew how to do it, no, that's bad. I'm 32. I'm going to break something. His father entreats the older brother, and the older brother responds like this. He says, look, all these years I've served you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me even a young goat. Which strikes me as funny. I guess goats know how to party too. You never even gave me that party goat that I might celebrate with my friends. Now, it doesn't have in so many words here, but if you can imagine what the older brother's feeling in his heart, basically what he's saying is like, Dad, haven't I earned more than what you're giving me? You're partying for your son who sucked and he left you. And look at me, I'm awesome. And you haven't given me anything. What's the deal with you, Dad? Sounds like entitlement to me. It sounds like selfishness. It sounds like the same things that are coming up in the younger brother are heart conditions of the older brother. The older brother has a problem too. He doesn't have the same heart that the father does. And the father challenges him in such a nice way. This father, gosh, we gotta have a dad like that. And my dad's awesome, but if we had a dad like that, this is incredible. He's so nice to his older son. He says, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost, and now he's found. And we hear the echo of that again. That's the last thing Jesus says to this party to end this story. The brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. That's the end of the story. And so what I like to do now is I want to think about what these two groups were thinking. Remember, rebellious people. They were the tax collectors and sinners. They were called sinners by these people. They were called the Pharisees and the scribes. They were self-righteous and thought they were the best and thought they were awesome. And over here you have people who are just rebellious, got to do whatever they want. And I think both groups have got to feel a little uncomfortable. Right? A little like, ugh. Because what Jesus is saying is hardcore. He's saying there are people that are lost and found. People that are dead and they're alive. And as they're thinking back over Jesus' story, they gotta be like, gosh, where do I fit in the picture? There's two sides of us here. There's two groups. There's kind of a rebellious group. There's kind of a self-righteous group. And I think Jesus is showing them, hey, younger brother, rebellious people, you are like the younger brother. And self-righteous people, you are like the older brother. And I think Jesus' point, he always wants to dig into people's hearts. That's what Jesus is doing. If you want to look at what Jesus is doing, where is he digging into people's hearts? He wants those rebellious people to be like, man, am I really living this crappy life when lavish love of the Father could be like mine? And then on this side, the self-righteous people, I think he wants them to ask, am I really a sinner? Do I really have a problem? I thought me and God were all good. Because I was serving God as best I could. And you're saying, Jesus, that's not enough. either. Because it's not. Everybody at that party knew that Jesus was talking about the Father as God. Jesus talked about God all the time. So when he said two sons and a father, they look at themselves, okay, your group, my group, and obviously God. And so what he is saying to those groups is they don't have what it takes. They do not have the heart of God. They have a problem. I think that's exactly what Jesus wanted to leave with them. It's like, okay, I have a problem with my heart. How do I change my heart? Because I want to experience this lavish, extravagant love that we saw the Father do in that story. Because the Father was awesome, wasn't he? He was recklessly extravagant. He was amazing. He was prodigal in the way he loved his son. He just gave him everything he wanted. It didn't matter that the son had nothing he could give him back. It was incredible. And so I think as they asked Jesus, okay, how do I do this? How do I fix what's wrong with me? Jesus would say, well, where do you find me in this story? Where do you find me, Jesus, in the story? I think they'd be like, I don't know, Jesus, where? Were you the Father? He's like, no, Father is God. You're the younger brother and the older brother. And Jesus would say, me, I'm the fattened calf. The fattened calf. I know it's very weird. It's like Jesus is the fattened calf, but it repeats it 3 times in the story. And it's great to bear with me. The fattened calf was simply this animal that was prepared, it was getting ready to be fattened up so it could feed a bunch of people. So it could be sustenance for people that could have a party. That calf's sole purpose was to be a sacrifice. And Jesus says, yeah, that's me. See, in the story, the son, the younger son, acknowledges his sin. Right? He says, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. And the father says, don't even worry about it. But to Jews, they knew there was something else. That a sacrifice was required. Sacrifice is always required for sin. And Jesus says, you know what? I am that sacrifice. I am the sacrifice for sin. Because sin has a price, it's evil, it's bad. When he says, I've sinned against heaven and against you, it is a serious deal. And it requires a price to be paid. Now, the fattened calf in this story is like the best thing the father has to offer. It's the thing the older brother gets mad about. He's like, you didn't even give me a goat, you gave him a fattened calf. It's like the biggest thing. And he's like, keeps pointing it out. And it's the best thing the father had to give. And Jesus is saying, yeah, I am the best the Father has to give. I am the best the Father has to give. So God gives Jesus as a sacrifice for the sin. For the sin of everyone in that party, and for the sin of everyone here. And I know everyone in here has a different story. You know, we all have different experiences. But one story we have in common is we have all sinned. And sin simply means we have missed the mark of perfection. We've done wrong. We've screwed up. You know, I think all of us would say, yeah, I'm not perfect. And that's what it means to sin. And the younger brother was the one to realize it. He realized, I've sinned. I'm sinful. I'm a sinner. I know it's a churchy word, but if you can get through that meaning, it's shameful. I've messed up. It says, I'm going to come back to the Father. And the Father pours his lavish, extravagant love on him. And makes him a son again, even though the younger son had nothing to offer. And that's what Jesus does to us. That's what we're all about at Crew. We're convinced that each one of us is rebellious against God. We're like that younger son who strayed away. We did our own thing. We said, God, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I want. But then, at some point, our hearts became convicted. We realized this is bad. And we turned and wanted to go back to God. And in that, we experienced the incredible love of God through Jesus Christ. We saw through the Bible that Jesus paid the sacrifice for our sin. It's the most famous verse in the Bible. John 3:16, right there. God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish. You think I have the most famous verse in the Bible memorized, but I get tongue-tied sometimes. I'm sorry. There are a couple other verses I want to share with you really quick. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. Remember, lost and found. Lost but found. The last one. Truly, I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but is passed from death to life. You see those ideas, lost and found, dead and alive. And what Jesus wanted to do at that party, and what I want to do to you today, is to challenge you to say, where are you? Are you dead or are you alive? Are you lost or are you found? Because at Crew, we believe that everyone has been lost. Everyone has a problem. And the only way to solve that problem, to have a relationship with God, is through Jesus Christ. Matt said it, Crew is a community for the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the idea that Jesus paid the penalty for your sin with his death on the cross. And that you can have a relationship with God and experience his lavish love. That idea captures and captivates our hearts. And it transforms our lives. And then everything after that is this awesome adventure with God. I just want to challenge you as I close. If you haven't yet put your faith in Jesus Christ, if you wouldn't call yourself a Christian, or if you would, you'd say, well, yeah, but I'm not in those other camps. I want to challenge you to think about who your God is. How does your God deal with your sin? How does your God feel about you? Because I look at the Bible, I see a God who loves me so much that he's willing to send his son to pay the penalty for my sins, so he just lavish me with love. So I'd love to talk to you about that. Hey, Crew, we know you've got a story. Everybody's got a story, so we'd love to hear it. We'd love to listen with an open mind. And the last thing I'll say is, believers in Jesus, you probably heard yourself in that story too. You're probably either the younger son or the older son. And so I just want to challenge you to do what the younger son did, and allow the heart to convict you, and turn and go back to God. Because if you do that, you'll find him running towards you. And in the forgiveness and grace of Jesus, you can find life and love again. Thanks so much. I think that's it. That's what it means to be a Christian at Crew. So let me pray for us. Jesus, thank you so much for using me to do this in an imperfect way. But you use imperfect people. So I pray for each and every student here, the young men and women who could have been doing something else with their time that they chose to be here with you. Would you give them a sense of peace? Would you convict them out of their need for you, and then help them to rest in your love for them? Jesus, I pray that every one of these students would have a relationship with you that lasts forever. We love you, Jesus. We pray this in your name. Amen.